Happy Tuesday! Yeah. It's my last day of going through ballot items. I have 4 items left on my ballot. My ballot, my votes, my vote, my choice, my voice. Just as your ballot is your vote, your choice, your voice. And in that little slogan I made there, I put choice before voice, even though sometimes it can roll off the tongue easier with the different order. I chose choice before voice because once you vote for something, your vote is your vote and you choose who you vote for. And at the end of it all, we shouldn't be afraid to use our voice for what we voted for. So I'm choosing to embody that in using my voice after voting and making my choice. So just a little background about that. And so there are 4 items left today. We are going to start on the Court of Appeals Division number 1, District number 1 level. Judge position number 5, nonpartisan office, vote for 1. There is 1 person here. It's David S. Mann, who I did vote for. I voted for David S. Mann, Court of Appeals Judge, position number 5. And so, David S. Mann, if I am elected President of the United States, and any United States Supreme Court Justice steps down, retires, is terminated, or dies, yes, they can actually be terminated, I will be selecting you for that court. You will be my choice. Why? Because you bring diversity, much needed diversity, to that court. This United States Supreme Court, it can be extremely depressing living in the Pacific Northwest, which is the northwest portion of the United States that borders the Pacific Ocean, which is Washington State and Oregon. And we like to include Alaska and Hawaii because us 4 states are commonly and repeatedly forgotten and or intentionally omitted from politics in the United States of America. We vote and we contribute to politics, but we are oppressed primarily by those on the East Coast who, I think the proper term is a freeloader, when you don't actually put in the work for what you've done. And so they continually choose zero voice from the Pacific Northwest. We are not a region. Yes, we are a region. We are small and we are mighty. We continually have our resources, our time, our energy drained by the East Coast, and yet they provide nothing for us. Don't worry, East Coast, you don't owe us anything. It's not you, it's me, it's us. We care about nature, we care about the planet we live in, we care about treating people kindly and learning the entire history of the United States. I had ancestors come over on the Mayflower. I go all the way back when I learn my history. The same cannot be said for the East Coast in schools, where they just kind of leave the West Coast and the entire history of the West as like the wild, wild West. One day, perhaps they will learn what it means to have soul. But in the meantime, it's just the East Coast for you. It's a place where discrimination and harassment and oppression abounds based on regional and occupational means. And so David S. Mann brings much needed diversity to the court, and the United States Supreme Court is extremely biased to their own kind, most notable of which is a recent decision on what they termed, the Supreme Court termed, faithless electors. The only people faithless are each and every Supreme Court justice on the United States Supreme Court at the time of that ruling. Because let's be honest, they all live on Native American land that they own, possess. It's not actually theirs. It has always been and will always be Native American land, but each and every one of them possess that land without the consent of the Native Americans whose land it is. And then they decided to declare Native American, the people, so the faithless electors, that's what they termed it, voted for Native Americans, specifically one Native American. And so there's a bit of, I believe there's grounds for termination when you do not reveal a conflict of interest. So who knows? If I am elected, there might be an entirely new Supreme Court and entirely new justices, because those going through the approval process are no less corrupt themselves. All right, so back to lighter things in Washington State, which will one day be named Seattle in honor of Native Americans and not the oppressors of the East Coast who did not even set foot in this state. Yeah. Oh, and the oppression, it's been centuries long, so it's nothing new, and there is a proven track record. You can just see who served on the United States Supreme Court and in the presidential office to see how heavy and strong and long the oppression of the East Coast, by the East Coast to the West Coast is, and specifically the Pacific Northwest. So, lighter things. David S. Mann, you are awesome. I'm a geologist and geophysicist, and he is a professional geologist and geophysicist. So there are certain professions where you need what's called a professional license. So this is David S. Mann, a professional geologist and geophysicist. And what that means is your job can have real life consequences, and like big ones, especially in geology. So the prefix geo means earth. The suffix ology means the study of, so it's the study of the earth. Geologists and geophysicists dedicate their lives to something bigger than themselves, and specifically something that doesn't have a voice in a stereotypical sense. It's not like a rock can pose all cute and furry for a photo or say, hey, don't step on me, don't hit me with your hammer. I don't like that. And so things that a geologist would be able, there's like land assessment, so is there this area landslide prone? How likely is that to occur? Same with earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and river migration so not all rivers stay in the same place, they move over time. And so it's called river migration. And so those are some of the things that we have to be concerned about in this state, and specifically the western part of the United States. There's also like rock falls are pretty common. And so there's technical training provided in college, and then after that, the professional license comes from additional examinations and on-the-job training. And so I have huge respect for David S. Mann for going through that process. I don't have my professional license yet. Immense respect, and especially for a court of appeals judge and in the legal system, right? What geologists and geophysicists work with are laws. We have to follow the law, and it's good to take into account the planet we live on. And it's good to have this diversity. And so I'll read part of his statement. Following a career as a geophysicist, Judge Mann earned a law degree 29 years ago and began a successful practice as an environmental lawyer. His skill and depth of knowledge, as well as his commitment to our Northwest values, benefited citizens groups, tribes, and families across the state. He argued significant cases before state and federal courts, including a successful appeal to the United States Supreme Court, a landmark victory for all citizens seeking transparency in government. So David S. Mann, I vote for you, and I want you to be a United States Supreme Court justice, and in my cabinet. Not necessarily in that order. Okay, next ballot item is Judge position number 6. This is still Court of Appeals, Division number 1, District number 1 level. Short and full term, nonpartisan office, vote for one. There's one person listed here. It is Bill Bowman. So, this is Bill Bowman. And I voted for him. There's many reasons why I voted for each of these people, but I like this. It's part of his statement. Judge Bowman grew up in Laurel, Washington, and graduated from Sahomie High School. He currently lives on a small farm with his wife in South King County and enjoys running the trails of the Cascades and surfing the breaks in Westport. I apologize for any mispronunciation of names that I make. And so I like that. That's balanced. I like that he enjoys the nature and the wildlife that we work to protect and take care of in this state. It is definitely not common in the rest of the United States. There are a few other states that is the case. And I greatly appreciate that he takes the time to enjoy it. To me, that shows that he values this land. So I voted for Bill Bowman for judge position number 6. On to the Superior Court level, judge position number 13, nonpartisan office, vote for 1. There's Hillary Masden and or Andrea Robertson. So I voted for Andrea Robertson. And I voted for Andrea Robertson for, it's hidden in here, and I really like it. Andrea, so this is part of her statement. Andrea fights to see justice prevail in the most challenging circumstances, attacking police misconduct, challenging inaccurate scientific evidence, and demanding government accountability. She has also been the voice for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and harassment. And so, what I liked in here was the challenging inaccurate scientific evidence part. When I was at the University of California, Berkeley, I had principal investigators is the term, and they had some very corrupt behavior and would present things that were not in line with the scientific evidence we found and we collected. And so I would voice that, and then I would be ignored. And so eventually I took that directly to journal editors, and I removed myself as author. And it's not that's not an uncommon case. And so yeah, I did quit that place. and I quit that project because of the unethical conduct by the principal investigators. And that's something that people, it's an issue that hasn't really come up yet, just like car batteries for electric cars actually do more environmental degradation than drilling for oil and gas does, and there's geopolitical issues and human rights violations with car batteries for electric cars that the press largely ignores and silences. It's pushing politics, right? It's money for them by pushing electric cars as only good things, when in reality it couldn't be further from the truth. And so there are things that should be talked about that the press silences, and one of that is inaccurate scientific evidence. Like, not all science is like there are people who conduct science, and you need to take into account those people and their values and how they live their life. And so this is something I'm very passionate about, clearly. And so I voted for Andrea Robertson for that reason, is we need people who are progressive and who can see these new problems that need to be addressed. And so, yeah, I voted for Andrea Robertson. And then we have one person left. A lot of page turning. We have, at the Superior Court level, judge position number 30, nonpartisan office, vote for 1. So there's Doug North and or Carolyn Ladd. And I voted for Doug North. And I voted for Doug North. I'm going to read part of his statement. Judge North is proud to serve on a court where over half of the 53 judges are women. However, nearly half of the current judges have been on the bench for less than 4 years. The court desperately needs Judge North's years of wisdom and knowledge. And I agree with that. There should be some of the people who know how the system works, who've been there for a while and can help not educate, because that kind of comes across wrong, but can be there as like a support and a source of advice for these newcomers. And I especially find where over half of the 53 judges are women, there are some men who freeze in that kind of a situation and can't work. So to see that he can work in that kind of a situation, 2 thumbs up from me. That it shows he actually accepts diversity and doesn't quit when things become more balanced. And so I voted for Doug North for just judge position number 30. And so that's it. It's the end of the ballot. So that's everything I voted for. This is part 8 of 8.